Chat, let me be real with you for a second. Okay. When I started Trainers of the World Tournament, I had one goal in mind, and that was for the host to be completely unbiased, to root for every trainer about equally. I did my best with Season 1, with Cynthia and then Faulkner, but I don't know if I can do it this time. See, for Trainers of the World Tournament, Season 2, match number 30, we've got the Society of Battle Kata Suitors leader, Jacinthe, going up against probably the greatest person from Legends EA, Detective Emma. We can see that Emma's got the Ampharos as her ace. We can see that Jacinthe's got Mawile as her ace. And once these trainers are ready, we can see just how well I can stick to my resolve of no bias. Let's see how well that goes. Emma starts off with the Jacinthe and Volcarona. Jacinthe starts off with the Klefki and Mawile. Mawile already intimidating both Jacinthe and Volcarona. I don't think it'll affect Volcarona as much. Maybe not Jacinthe either. Not too sure. Mawile gonna Mega Evolve. Volcarona going for Protect. Klefki starting up Light Screen. Sucker Punch fails as Jacinthe goes for the Strength Sap on Mawile, reducing its attack. Jacinthe goes for Protect. Klefki goes for Reflect as Volcarona goes for Quiver Dance. Mawile goes for Swords Dance. So many dances on this field. Even though there's just two, but Volcarona going for another Quiver Dance. Dazzling Gleam doing 5% to Volcarona, 13% to Jacinthe. Jacinthe taking away the attack boost from Mawile, burning it with the Flame Body. An unfortunate burn for Mawile. Mawile with the Sucker Punch, not enough to take out the Volcarona. Heat Wave takes out the Mawile, nearly takes out the Klefki through that Light Screen. Volcarona still holding on. Jacinthe healing up with Strength Sap as Gardevoir traces the Water Absorb from Jacinthe. Heat Wave is going to do 45% to Gardevoir, take out the Klefki. Aura Sphere takes out the Volcarona. Shadow Ball does 30% to Gardevoir as it eats the Citrus Berry, healing up to 50%. It's currently 4v5 right now. That Volcarona put in quite a bit of work. Emma's gonna send out the Abomasnow. Jacinthe's gonna send out the Clefable. Gardevoir going Terra Steel. Jacinthe goes for Protect. Clefable goes for Follow Me. Aura Sphere does 55% to Abomasnow as Emma sets up the Aurora Veil. Lots of screens going up. There's 3 turns of Reflect left, 2 turns of Light Screen. Psychic doing 33% to Abomasnow. Shadow Ball doing 14%. Water Absorb. I guess that works on the... Oh, interesting. Gardevoir with the Psychic doing a crit to Jacinthe. Abomasnow faints. Shadow Ball doing 15% to Gardevoir. My screen wears off. There's either 2 to 5 turns of Snow and Aurora Veil left. Emma sending out the Whimsicott now. It's 4v4 right now. It's an even game in terms of number of Pokemon. Clefable goes for Follow Me. Moonblast does 22%. Psychic does 20%. Strength Sap heals the Jacinthe up. Clefable goes for an Encore on Whimsicott goes for an Encore on Clefable. Jacinthe healing up against with Strength Sap. Aurora Veil wears off, but Snow still has 3 turns left. Whimsicott doing 21% to Clefable. Psychic doing 62% to Whimsicott. Shadow Ball doing 19.3% to Clefable. Whimsicott going for Protect. Clefable with Follow Me. Psychic into that Protect. Shadow Ball doing 20% to Clefable as the Encore finally ends. 3 Pokemon with low health on the field right now. Jacinthe's just chilling. Moonblast takes out the Clefable. Psychic takes out the Whimsicott. Shadow Ball takes out the Gardevoir. Now it's 2v3 right now. Mr. Pringles certainly has a body count right now. Emma sends out the Trevenant as Jacinthe sends out her final 2 Pokemon, the Sylveon and the Carbink. Carbink's going to be the last wall that Emma needs to take down to win this game. Sylveon with the Mystical Fire into that Protect. Jacinthe using Trick Room, reversing the turn order. Hornleech doing 27% to Sylveon. Strength Sap healing Jacinthe up. Mystical Fire doing 34% and lowering Trevenant's special attack. Carbink cancels the Trick Room. Oh boy, we've got a Trick Room off here. Trevenant goes Terra Fairy. Takes 19% from that Mystical Fire. Triggers the Citrus Berry. Shadow Ball does 16%. Poltergeist does 41%. Moonblast does 11% to Jacinthe. And Trevenant gets another Citrus Berry. Hyper Voice doing 24 to Jacinthe, 30 to Trevenant. Citrus Berry healing up Trevenant. Shadow Ball doing 19%. Hornleech doing 40% to Carbink. As it eats a Citrus Berry. So many berries on the field. Moonblast does 12.8. Trevenant gets another Citrus Berry. That's like a 50% chance to get it every turn after it uses one. It's only 100% in the sunlight. 32% on Jacinthe, 44% on Trevenant. Strength Sap healing up Jacinthe. Moonblast doing 12% to Jacinthe. Trevenant sets up the Trick Room. Carbink either gonna have to sacrifice its turn to cancel its Trick Room, or just deal with it, which it's making well use of it. Moonblast hurts the Trevenant. Hornleech takes out the Sylveon, and it's just Carbink against 3 Pokemon. Moonblast does 15% to Trevenant, healing with the Citrus Berry. Hornleech does 40% healing with that, and then Shadow Ball takes out Carbink, and with 3 Pokemon remaining, Emma takes game number 1. We only saw the Terra Fairy. We didn't see her Mega Ampharos in action, assuming that's what it was. We saw all 4 moves from Jacinthe. We saw the Snow Warning from Abomasnow, as well as the Icy Rock. We saw the Citrus Berry Flame Body from Volcarona. And then we saw Citrus Berry Harvest and all 4 moves from the Trevenant. From Jacinthe's team, we saw the Citrus Berry on Carbink, as well as Ally Switch and Trick Room. We saw Mega Mawile. We saw the Prankster, Light Screen, Reflect, Klefki. We saw Citrus Berry, Trace, Terra Steel, Gardevoir with Aura Sphere. And then the Throat Spray on Sylveon. Quite a good game between these two, but only one can move on to round 2. We are back on the field for game number 2, and we can see quite a few new Pokemon. We can see that Emma's brought the Malamar, the Lucario, Crobat to her team. And Jacinthe has added the Mega Clefable, which is at no sprite there, and the Tinkaton. Once these trainers are ready, we're going to see if Emma takes game number 2, or if Jacinthe brings this to a game number 3. I'm doing my best to remain unbiased. Emma's starting off with Lucario and Crobat. Jacinthe starting off with Clefable and Klefki. I believe, let me double check real quick. Clefable's ability is Prankster, which is different from its champions, but that's the trouble with doing this during Legends ZA release. Flash Cannon does 72% to Clefable, Mystical Fire nearly takes out the Lucario, lowering special attack as well. Crobat goes for Taunt, Klefki goes for Reflect, and now Klefki's not able to make use of its Prankster ability. Switching out to the Carbink, Super Fang does 50% to Klefki. Flash Cannon takes Carbink down to the Sturdy, triggering that Citrus Berry. Lucario faints from the Life Orb. Dazzling Gleam does 13.5% to that Crobat. And Emma's going to send out the Malamar now. Malamar going to Mega Evolve. Crobat goes for Taunt. Super Power doing 17% to Carbink. Dazzling Gleam is super effective, doing 34% to Malamar. 32% from the Moonblast. Boosting that special attack on Malamar. Though I don't think it'll help much for Malamar. Unless it's got a special move. Crobat with the U-turn, not enough to take out that Carbink, leaving it at 6%, switching into the Whimsicott. Super Power does 35% to Klefki, boosting its stats again. Dazzling Gleam leaves Malamar on 1%, Moonblast finishes it off, and it is down to 4 Pokemon left. As she sends back out that Crobat. Klefki goes for Light Screen. Crobat goes for Taunt. Moonblast with the crit takes out the Carbink. Reflect has 3 turns left as Jacinthe sends back out the Clefable. Crobat goes for Tailwind. Moonblast does 14% and lower special attack on Clefable. Klefki doing 25%. Whimsicott fades from the Air Slash. And Emma sends out the Volcarona now. Super Fang does 7% to Clefable. Heat Wave takes out both of Jacinthe's Pokemon, bringing it to 3v3 right now. Jacinthe sends out Gardevoir and Sylveon. Gardevoir traces the Flame Body from that Volcarona. Volcarona goes for Protect as Crobat goes for Taunt on the Gardevoir. Sylveon with Hyper Voice does 17% to Crobat, activating the Throat Spray. Gardevoir is unable to use a Trick Room as Reflect wears off on Jacinthe's team. Super Fang does 50%, burns the Crobat with that Flame Body as Volcarona goes for Quiver Dance. Psychic takes out the Crobat. Hyper Voice does 21% to Volcarona. There's 3 turns of Light Screen remaining, and Emma sends out her final Pokemon, Ampharos. Jacinthe still has the Tinkaton in the back, though it's probably not going to like a Heat Wave from Volcarona, especially with boosted stats. Volcarona goes for another Quiver Dance. Psychic does 45% to Ampharos as Sylveon goes for Yawn. Thunderbolt doing 39% to Gardevoir. The taunt finally wears off on it. Volcarona is drowsy, so it will fall asleep this next turn. Heat Wave does 46%, takes out the Gardevoir, burns the Sylveon. Hyper Voice does 45% to Ampharos. Thunderbolt does 27% to Sylveon. Volcarona is asleep. It's now a 2v2 as Jacinthe sends out the Tinkaton. Tinkaton with the Air Balloon. Fake Out flinches the Ampharos. Hyper Voice takes out the Ampharos. And it's just Volcarona left. If it doesn't wake up here, it's probably over. It's still asleep. Gigaton Hammer takes out the Volcarona. And Jacinthe takes game number 2, which means we are moving on to a game number 3. We only saw the Life Orb from the Lucario. We saw Mega Malamar with Contrary. We saw all 4 moves from that Crobat from Jacinthe's team. We saw Trick Room on the Gardevoir. We saw not much else other than the Tinkaton with the Air Balloon. We are back on the field for game number 3. And we can see another new Pokemon on Emma's team, that's Lopunny. Once these trainers are ready, we're going to see who's going to take game number 3 and move on to round 2. Emma's starting off with the Lopunny and Volcarona. Jacinthe starting off with the Klefki and the Carbink. Both of those Pokemon have Reflect and Light Screen, so I'm guessing Jacinthe is going to want to start off with the screens. Lopunny Mega Evolves, fakes out the Carbink as Volcarona goes for Quiver Dance. Dazzling Gleam does 42% Lopunny. Volcarona goes Terra Fairy. Heat Wave takes out the Klefki. Close Combat does 27% to Carbink as Carbink sets up a Trick Room. Jacinthe sends out the Gardevoir, tracing the Flame Body once again. It's currently 5v6 right now. We've got both gimmicks on Emma's side of the field right now. Switching out to the Jacinthe, Moonblast does 13% to Jacinthe. Hyper Voice doesn't affect Jacinthe at all. Terra Blast takes out the Carbink, and Sylveon comes out here. We saw this thing do quite a bit. It's got the Throat Spray as well as Pixelate Hyper Voice. Sylveon goes for Yawn on the Volcarona. Psychic does 28% as Volcarona goes for a Quiver Dance. Trick Room is turned off thanks to that Jacinthe. Volcarona goes for the Heat Wave. Sylveon misses it, but Gardevoir is taken out. Hyper Voice does 21% to Jacinthe, 16% to Volcarona. Shadow Ball does 10% to Sylveon. Volcarona is asleep as Jacinthe sends out the Mega Clefable. Volcarona still asleep. Jacinthe goes for the Protect. Hyper Voice does 27% to Volcarona. Dazzling Gleam takes out the Volcarona. Emma loses her first Pokemon of Game 3 as she sends out the Lucario now. We saw this thing with Flash Cannon and the Life Orb. Flash Cannon does 69% to Clefable. Hyper Voice does 81% to Lucario, nearly taking it out. Mystical Fire with the crit takes out the Lucario. A critical hit, Shadow Ball does 25% to Clefable. Jacinthe is on a 2% right now as Emma sends out the Lopunny. Lopunny can only fake out one Pokemon, either take out the Clefable or flinch the Sylveon. Switching out the Clefable for the Tinkaton, fakes out the Sylveon, Strength Saps the Tinkaton, healing 62%. What an insane prediction from Emma, predicting that switch out to the Tinkaton to save it. Switching out the Jacinthe for the Crobat, Tinkaton goes for Protect. Return does 37% to Sylveon. Lopunny does faint from this Hyper Voice. And it's now 3v3. It's an even game here. Abomasnow comes out setting up the snow. Abomasnow probably not going to like this Tinkaton. Setting up the Tailwind. Gigaton Hammer does 46% to Crobat. Mystical Fire through the Aurora Veil doesn't take out the Abomasnow. Very clutch for Emma's team. Abomasnow's at 21%. Tinkaton gets hit with the Super Fang. The Air Balloon pops. Blizzard does a bit of damage to Jacinthe's team. Hyper Voice takes out the Abomasnow. And it's now Jacinthe and Crobat versus Jacinthe's last 3 Pokemon. Super Fang does 18% to Tinkaton. Gigaton Hammer takes out the Crobat. Shadow Ball not enough to take out the Sylveon as it goes for Yawn. Play Rough does 13% to Jacinthe. Shadow Ball takes out the Sylveon. And Jacinthe falls asleep. Emma bros, it might be over. Gigaton Hammer does 11% to Jacinthe. Air Slash does 18%. Jacinthe still asleep. Aurora Veil wears off. Play Rough with the crit takes out Jacinthe. And with 2 Pokemon remaining, Jacinthe takes game number 3, which means she's our winner for match 30. Look, I'm doing my best, stay unbiased. She's gonna be going on to round 2, where she'll be facing off against the instructor Saguaro from Scarlet and Violet. Join us Monday, where we'll be seeing Nurse Joy going up against. Let me look this person up real quick. Coordinator Drew. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, take care.